So this is class exercise number 2, part 1, task C. All right. I'm going to talk to you about the third part, and this is what I call is the polishing of your table with it. And there are things that I'm going to give you a table to be a little bit more polished, and it's besides the cement and all this. I'm not concerned about that with it, but we're going to change the size of the table. I'm going to talk about adding a space in the cell and adding a space between the rows with it. I'm going to talk to you about aligning the data of the cell with it. I'm going to talk to you about working with some of the command. Basically, is to process some of the errors that could be produced with it as well. So you gotta be careful in how things are used here with it. I'm going to talk about cell padding and cell spacing. All right. So this all builds up to the layout that I'm going to talk to you about. The width of the table with it, and how you use it as a percentage wise with it. Let me pull up some notes here. I think I have some notes here with it. Hang on, I want to see if I can actually get some notes I did for the lab with it, and it's easier for you to see. So this is what's going to go into your notes of your exercise with it. You're going to have this with it. So I kind of made some notes as I go along with this. So I'm going to talk to you about the width of this table with it. It's in percentage with it. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about cell spacing, cell padding, and cell spacing with it. So what does it look like when it's in between and the space that's designated with it as well? If you want a picture that is butt up against the other picture after you splice it, well, guess what? The cell padding and cell spacing, you might have to format that a little bit. And how we align the tables with it. So you're going to align left, right, center, all the stuff that you have. You're also going to V-align it. All these things that we're looking at are attributes, and they're going to equal to a properties with it. One of the things I do want to turn your attention in programming, anytime you see an equal sign like this, like this, like this, it means the right side is equal to the left hand side. It means the right side, which is what? Properties or values, is stored into the attribute. Okay? So just keep that in mind for me. Like for example, it says align equals middle. You can't say middle equals align. If you did middle equals align, middle equals align like this, well, guess what? You're taking align, you're putting into middle. Okay, does that make sense? So, and of course, middle is not an attribute. You're going to error, right? So, so on and so on. All right. So let's get coding here. I want to code as I go along and talk to you on some of the stuff that as we do this with it. So we gave it a border of 5 in this right here, and it's in between with this thing. Let's make this a little bigger. All right. Let's make this thing a little bigger with it. I'm going to give it a width. And you notice I started typing this, and the IntelliSense kicks in, and then I wanted to give it a quote. Anything you put, it's best that you put in percentage in here. All right, it's a good scale to use. And inside this table, I like to talk about what's called cell padding. Bear with me, is equal to 4. And then I'm going to add in to come over to the right of that. I'm going to add in cell spacing. You know, my IntelliSense kicks in with it, and cell spacing. All right, so padding. I want to make sure my spelling's right here. And cell spacing equal to. Let's give that a 3. Okay, hold on. Bear with me since some of this code I'm dealing with it. So here, let me scroll so you can see the rest of it and pause. If you need to pause your screen, and you can type the whole thing. Okay. I wonder if there's a way I could get this on. Let me pull it. Yeah. You see that? I'm sorry, but I just shrunk the entire screen so you can see what that looks like. If you need to pause that for a second with it. So this is what the entire table looks like. The closing of that table. All right, give me a second. I'm going to talk to you about cell padding and cell spacing in a second. So let me talk to you about cell spacing and cell padding and the difference of it and what's important about it. Okay, so here is a drawing that I just did with it, and you're going to create this table, and here this is where it is. It's really big difference in this thing. So if you look at the border outside of this little perimeter area right here, all right, we call that the cell spacing, and it's set to 5, for example. Inside of that, the space that I am drawing right here with it, that is what's called cell padding with it. So CS, cell spacing, that's the perimeter of the table. Inside the table, whatever you think of that little cushion room, or I don't know, kind of like a room filled with cushion. This cushion is called a pad. So you get CP, cell padding. Well, why am I telling you this? Well, let's say for optimization, you have to splice up a big picture and then you have to put it back together. Well, if you want things to join up butt up with the two images that are butt up with one another, well, guess what? You have to set all of these things 0. Okay, so if I set my cell spacing and cell padding 0, then the picture would line up butt to butt. And why do you want? And you might ask, why do you want it spliced? Well, the reason is it loads a lot easier when it is spliced with it. And I'm going to talk about vector graphics and all this stuff as well. But for now, please understand the difference between cell padding and cell spacing. The padding is inside of the cell. Cell spacing is basically the perimeter or the border of the table. Okay. Now, so let's get back to where we're going with this. And with it. So does everybody have what I have right here? Okay, so I have what I have basically with it. Yeah. So you have your table row and your table row in here, and then we did a inside of that. All right. So here's your table row that I started this, and then there is a closing of that table row right underneath it as well, right? And then I did a table what? TH is table header. Inside of that I did a column of 2, and inside of that I use an H3 tag with it, and that's the closing of the TH with it. It's right here with it. Now, by the way, I indented this. It just looks a lot better, easier to read, etc., with it. But I can always put this up here and still work up here as well. The other table row that we did was a table header that gives you a title. Let me just take up this white space right here with it, right? And I just took that out so you could see that a little better with it, tightening it up with it as well. So inside of that you have your TH for the column 1, column 2, and then you have your table right now, your table row. This is what I'm going to go in. I'm going to do align equal. I'm going to put this thing in the center. Okay, so that's put to the center with it as well. So that kind of alleviates it. I'm gonna end here with a table row, closing that off with it, and then I have the table. This whole table belongs inside of the body. Okay, so Control S saves it. Open up your Windows, your Explorer. If you want, open up Live Server. And it should look like this. Okay, it should look like this at this time. All right. So you kind of gave it a little polish and with it. Again, the assignment I'm going to ask you to do is create. You have this, but I like for you to create 3 columns. All right. So that's the assignment with this as well. This is for part of class exercise number 2. You're creating an index. I'm not going to give you away the code. You need to figure out how to create a table with 3 columns. I gave you an example of 2 columns. Okay.